Welcome to the Level 9 Laboratory. Today we're going to be finishing off our Nurgle Bebop mashup. So I've hit the clay with just a general primer, and now I'm starting with the airbrush. Started to use a kind of a fleshy, kind of yellow tone, just to kind of bring out the sickness in the skin. And just layering it with lighter tones from the top down and darker tones from the bottom up. I kind of go back and forth here until I reach the sort of tone that I'm looking for with the skin. Filling in all the dark crevices and undershading all of the spots from the bottom. Every one of his open wounds or sores I sprayed with kind of an off-green color. This was to try to accent the fact that it was rotting. And then I added a little bit of flesh to the spray to try to give it a little bit of a pinky hue. Doing little spot highlights with this really bright neon green. I thought it would really bring attention to particular spots on the model that I thought needed kind of a call to the eye. And I really wanted it to look like he was not just rotting, but there was some type of supernatural thing happening. I really enjoy the painting process. It allows you to really bring life into what you've created. My goal here was to have the fat pustules inside the open wounds really kind of show that this thing once had life inside of it, and so I wanted these kind of yellows to be really bright. I eventually dyed them down quite a bit, and so the color kind of fades off, but I think it was a good kind of indication that there's a lot of fat inside of this monster. And doing these kind of black leather straps here and any other detail that I knew I was going to brush with some silver later. I always like to have black be the starting point. And quite a bit of the model got a nice healthy wash. The wash really sinks into these crevices and crannies that I've created on the model. Brings out a lot of that depth in the detail, which is great. Usually I'll do a wash and then dry brush. Sometimes I'll dry brush, wash, and then dry brush once more. This time I think I just used the airbrush for most of my top-down highlights, and then this wash brings out all of those little details that the airbrush filled in. I experimented quite a bit with the color of the tentacles off camera. I decided to go with this purple as it kind of fit the scheme of him being kind of this neon purple and like bright green. and of course the shades are going to be purple later, and his hair is going to be purple, so I wanted to kind of have some uniform color schemes. Well, I really liked how the purple turned out, so let's try to do an accent color that kind of keeps in that neon early Ninja Turtles theme. So I went with this bright pink. One thing I always like to remind myself when I'm painting is if you overpaint, if you miss, if your brush hits a spot it's not supposed to, there's so many ways to fix it. The best thing about paint is you can always just paint over it. You can always have a brush on the side that is water soaked, and then if you miss a little bit with your main brush and the color goes where it's not supposed to, you can grab that other brush and quickly kind of wash it away and then dry it and keep kind of dabbing the paint away and using a dry brush to soak up the now water and paint mixture that you've used, sort of a way to erase the paint. Any greater demon of Nurgle, or even any servant of Nurgle, will for sure have some type of disease, so I'm adding on these little specks to show that this guy is not very healthy. I used a dark tone wash on the tentacles, so it would really sink into some of the minor details that I made, really show off the depth in the tentacles. Instead of Bebop's actual necklace, I went with the more fleshy approach. One of the reasons I had so much fun with this model was I was able to mix some of Bebop's character and some of Nurgle's character, and this necklace that Bebop had, I think, looks really awesome as a fleshy, spiny lump underneath Nurgle's neck. So after painting all the spines white, I kind of work them back and add a brown and an increasingly darker tone as we get closer to the flesh, and some of them I add a bit of green and some of them I add a little bit of yellow, just to kind of signify that they're not all the same and they've deteriorated in different ways. And then something bumps my camera stand. The true agent of chaos. Nice try, Ripley. Maybe another time. I'm gonna go right back to the model. I can't do that. Here's a little bit of love. It's time to truly get back to my creation. Now, where were we? I really didn't want to skimp on any of the details on this model, so I wanted to have a lot of the things catch the eye. Now, the overall problem with having everything catch somebody's eye is that eventually none of it will. I added a light blue color to the dry brush. With so much of this model being a pink color, I really needed to have that tongue stand out, so I made it a weird blue. While I still had some pink on the brush, I went back to the tentacles and did some lines, adding a bit more depth and shine, kind of some edge highlights to each and every tentacle to give them a little bit more depth, give them the illusion that they're shiny and possibly slimy. And after painting both of the shoulder pads green, I spent way too much time doing detail on this, as I didn't spend enough time putting the detail in the clay building phase. After painting the sword silver, I added some kind of blue smoky details to make it look like this sword was doing something unnatural and magical. We've all been waiting for it, and here it is. One side of the glasses broke while I was baking them, but I kind of felt like it fit with the Nurgle theme. I'm adding a very watered down purple to the hair at first, just so it sinks into all of the little details that I carved out when I was making this sculpture. After finishing up the other shoulder pad, dry brushing the hair, cleaning up the glasses, and whitening the palm, I was on to the base. So I found this cardboard tube for rolling up coins and cut it in half. Used some old spackle and brown paint, mixed it together as a part of a mud, and started to figure out how it would work by putting it down, then checking with the model to see if the tentacles and the legs all fit in that area. I eventually added a really bright neon slime over top, and I think it looks great. And on to our final creation. Like and subscribe and hit the bell. Let me know in the comments if you found all the secret turtles hidden in the base.